Alright, divine beings. What's going on, guys? Hi. So, I don't know, there was like a specific subject on my mind, and that is abandonment. Abandonment came up. As you know, we are dealing with a time astrologically called Mercury retrograde. Now, some of you have heard me talk about Mercury retrograde quite a bit, and that is because, for those of you that know, when the planets are in retrograde or they are going through their transitions, we are heavily affected, whether we see it that way or not. But for those of you again that know. For those of you that don't know, yes, those planets are not out there to just look beautiful and do whatever it is that they do out there in the outer space. They serve a specific purpose that is linked directly to us human beings over here on planet Earth. We have a special connection to them. That is why when we are dealing with our zodiacs and how our sun signs have a special link to a planet or planets, in my case, planets. And when I say that links, I'm talking about planetary rulers. Each of us have a planetary ruler. Now, the planetary ruler, it basically states that we, and whatever that planet stands for, a lot of our characteristics resemble what that planet stands for. My planetary rulers are Uranus and Saturn, being that I'm an Aquarius. And I feel that heavily when I looked up, and you guys can find that out by you just research your sun sign. And your sun sign is going to be the month that you were born in. It's going to correlate with the month and the day that you were born. That's how you find out your sun sign, and then that is essentially how you will find out what your planetary ruler is. But as we are in this Mercury retrograde, I kind of digressed a little bit. As we are in this Mercury retrograde, which is the planet of forcing us to review and reassess and rearrange and realign, and are the RE words. It gives us the opportunity, when Mercury goes into retrograde, it slows down, and it gives us the opportunity to also slow down and take a deeper look at our lives in whatever way that may be, and readjust things in whatever way we need to, if we are willing and open to doing so. Right? 335. There's always that. We always have free will. I always stress that on this channel. I will never say that you guys have to do this, or you have to do that, or you don't have to do anything. We have free will, and God gives us free will. We don't even have to do what God asks us to do. But for those of us that desire to do the will of God, we're going to do so, right? Because we so choose to. But again, free will. We don't have to do anything that we don't want to. Now, will there be consequences that follow our choices? Will there be rewards that follow our choices? Yes, most definitely. There will be that. So, with that said, I was talking about abandonment, but I brought up Mercury retrograde only because it causes us to reflect and reassess, which means that a lot of thoughts will come up from the past. And if some of you are struggling with abandonment at this time, if that is a wound for some of you that is resurfacing, that may very well be why. Because Mercury retrograde is having us look back into, some wounds that are resurfacing. Mercury retrograde. Mercury, the planet Mercury, is known for that. Causing us to look back at some things that are coming up in memory or resurfacing in our feelings and in our emotions as well. Excuse me, guys. I have something in my eye. I get like 20,000 eyelashes that fall into my eyes at least every day. I mean, my lashes are constantly shedding every day. I don't know what that's about, but they need to get it together. So, if abandonment is a wound that is coming up for you guys at this present time, I just want to give you guys some comfort in knowing that we need to make sure that we are showing up for ourselves first and foremost, and to not have this expectation that others should show up for us because we feel like we need someone, because we feel like we can't be alone, because we don't want to be alone, and I get it. For some of us, we enjoy the company of others. For some of us, we enjoy being in connections when it comes to relationships. For some of us, we enjoy, family. Some of us just enjoy just having the opportunity to connect with another person. And being alone is just not something that, we enjoy. Me personally, I'm an Aquarius, so I've always enjoyed being alone. But I also enjoy the company of others as well, when the opportunity presents itself. So I'm both. But I've traveled along my journey to where most of my time has been spent alone. And I'm used to that. And also because I enjoy it, I don't have a problem with it. And I also only enjoy the company of those that, I resonate with at this point in my life on a soul level. Like, if I don't resonate with you, and my soul doesn't resonate with you, and my personality is not, it's not meeting up with you on a positive level, I'd rather not. That's just how I am. I don't like to just have surface level conversations. I don't like to link up with people just because I don't want to be alone. I'm not one of those. Again, I prefer being alone if the company that I'm going to entertain, or the company or the person that's going to entertain me, doesn't resonate with me on a soul level. I'm not for that. Now, if abandonment is coming up because it's something that's happened to you, you were abandoned as a child, and it's a childhood wound that is resurfacing at this time, my heart goes out to you. I can resonate with that personally. I, was left alone a lot as a child. And also when I was around family as a child, because I was dropped off to grandparents because, my mother didn't want to deal with me and wanted to go do what she wanted to do, and my father wasn't around because he and my mother had divorced they separated when I was 2, but didn't finally divorce on paper until I was like 15. I'm not sure why. But, just like those of you that have abandonment issues from when you were a child, so do I. And, like I said, when I was dumped off on grandparents or other family members because my mother didn't want to deal with me, it was very difficult. There were moments where I just didn't want to be even around those family members because I just knew that I was being dumped off and that they didn't want to be bothered with me. It's a very harsh situation as a young child to deal with, because you start feeling like, well, nobody loves me, and nobody wants to be bothered with me, and nobody wants me around. And you just start to feel like a beast of burden. And it is a wound that just begins to set in at an early age, that tends to carry over into adulthood. And, it stayed with me into my adult years, to a point where, I just got to a point where I was like, I'm not going to be too much hanging with anybody. I'm just going to stay to myself. I'm not going to go around people too much, if at all. Because even, as I became an adult, certain friends or whatever, I just kind of felt like they were just, I don't know, it was just really strange. Like they weren't really feeling me either. So I was like, okay. And I'm glad that at this point I finally released all of those connections that weren't serving me, because what were they really providing? When I took a deep dive at mine, and when you take a deep dive at yours, what are they really providing? 112 as I'm saying this, 113 as I'm saying this, 111 as I'm saying this. They're not really providing anything at all. That is, nourishment for the soul. And we hang on to those connections because they've been a part of our life for so long. But the abandonment wounds that I carried from my childhood over into my adulthood, I made a decision to just not even go around people. I just said, okay, I'm just going to stay in my little zone, isolate myself, not talk to people too much. And that's exactly how I carried on my life. And I can't honestly say that it bothered me before I began my healing process, because it didn't. I've become so comfortable with being alone, and I had become so comfortable with not having any friends, or hardly any friends, to where I didn't care. I didn't care, and I just was so engrossed in my own company and whatever I wanted to do. I kept my own self, entertained with, my hobbies, because I have so many hobbies. Y'all, I have so many hobbies to a point where I would never get bored. If I was retired right now, I would never get bored. And again, they would be hobbies that definitely would make me money. But it's not about that. It's just that I just have so much that I do or could be doing in my free time. I just would never get bored. And I've been like that all of my life. So when, I continued to self-isolate because of my childhood abandonment wounds, I was cool. And even, at this point in my life, I am perfectly fine still doing things alone. But I'm not going to lie, I am starting to get the nudge. Well, I'm starting to get the nudge by the divine to go out and meet new people and, possibly, make some connections that would possibly turn into friendships. And when I entertain the thought, actually, it doesn't sound too bad. It doesn't sound too bad. But right now, I'm focused on more important things, which is, building my legacy, building my future, gaining financial stability, and a strong foundation that won't waver once I'm long gone. That, my son can carry on and his children can carry on. So that's what I'm focused on right now. So I'm not really focused on building, meeting new people right now, or possibly creating new friendships and things like that. I'm not looking at that right now. That's not my focus right now. But, I've been entertaining the thought. And like I said, Spirit's been putting that on my plate to get out and meet new people and to socialize and get out of my scorpion den of sorts, I guess. But, when I think about it, and when my abandonment wounds resurface, because they have during this retrograde, but because I've done the healing work to a point where those past hurts and memories that were tied to my abandonment wounds, they don't bother me. But I think about them from time to time. And also, it's just something else I need to celebrate because of how far I've come. And the simple fact that, when those memories resurface, they don't bother me anymore. You know, I'm glad that I can entertain myself. I'm glad that I can be alone and enjoy my own company and not feel lonely or sad, wishing that I had a spouse or wishing that I had, a friend by my side, every single week, because I do have a friend, I do have my son, but, they have their own lives and, they're busy. So, and they're, doing their own healing work, and they are, have embarked on their own spiritual journeys to where they're sorting through their own things as well, just as I am. So their alone time is important for them. And, I don't want to get in the way of that. I definitely am not the type to get in the way of someone's healing journey and the work that they need to do for themselves. I will always be a source of support, always. But, wouldn't want to interrupt what they have going on that they need to do for themselves. But, those were some harsh lessons. My mother taught me, she was my first teacher when it came to abandonment. And then, I had a 8-year-long relationship that taught me about abandonment as well. When things didn't go his way, he would jump ship and completely forget all about, what he signed up for, and would ignore me and as a form of punishment and pretend I wasn't even there. And I was just like, cool, because little do you know, dude, my mother already taught me this lesson, early on. So, what you're doing, hey, I've already been put on game, about this, so I can handle it, and I did. But, my mother was my first teacher when it came to abandonment. She showed me that I didn't need to depend on anybody. I didn't need to form a codependency on another person. All I needed was myself. But down the line, I had to learn to love myself, though. I had to learn how to love myself, and realize in loving myself that I didn't need another person to depend on for company, for their love, for their support, for their resources, for whatever, and that I can depend on myself. I have myself. I can rely on myself for all that it is that I need, in whatever way that is. So my mother was my first teacher when it came to abandonment. And, it also taught me that, when I became a mother, that I would never abandon my son. And I never did. And I never will. Whatever he needs, I'm there. Even if it's just a quick, connection to laugh together, or a small opportunity to laugh together, I'm there for it, or if he just needs me for whatever, even if he just wants to talk about something silly or tell a joke, I'm there for it. Every little thing that he has needed, I've been there for him. So she showed me the type of mother I didn't want to be. And I learned that lesson too. And I've been the type of mother for my son that he's needed me to be. And then on top of being a single mother all of his life, I'm saying I showed up. I showed up. And I will continue to show up. And even as now he's an adult, I will continue to show up and be there for him whenever he needs me. 1919 as I'm saying this. So, during this retrograde, like I said, retrograde being a planet that brings up old, memories, old emotions, people from the past events. It is a teacher of the past. I have to say that this retrograde, I've handled my lessons when it's come to it showing me things of the past, be it a memory, past people that have showed up, so I've been in the clear on that, which is good, because they would have been quickly dismissed. That is the reason why they are part of the past or left them behind. There's a reason for that. So I've not been tested with people, and I don't foresee me being tested with anyone from the past. But when it comes to feelings, emotions, thoughts, memories, definitely I've been heavily tested in that way. And like I said, I'm going to celebrate. I'm about to celebrate in a few minutes here because I'm about to get me some chips. Because I've got to get some work done for us. And then I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Sunday. Probably watch me another movie later. I am enjoying my day. I am telling you. So, as abandonment has come back up, I have handled it with grace. And, what I've said, when memories would come up, I would say, okay, at that time, I did the very best that I could with what tools I had and what knowledge I had and what strength I had. Because I wasn't the strongest person in my past. I'm a very powerful and strong person now because I know my power now. And I possess that power now. Then I didn't know the extent of my power or that I was even powerful. But now that I know that, any test I'm met with, any memory that crosses my mind, any emotion that crosses my heart, I'm gonna knock it out. I'm just gonna slay it. With flying colors, 141, as I'm saying this because I've healed enough to be able to handle it. And yes, being someone who was abandoned, I'm glad that I was abandoned. Y'all like, why would she say she's glad that she was abandoned? I mean, who would ask to be abandoned? You know what? It just taught me to be self-reliant. That I don't need anybody. I would like someone. I would like good people in my life when the time comes. But do I need it? Do I have to have it? Am I dependent on it? Does my life and soul depend on it? No. No, it does not. And naturally, I've never been that type of person anyway. So, I got me. And as I'm growing and learning, and sorry about that bird, y'all. I know that bird might be kind of loud. I apologize. And it's just right here, singing or talking or sending a message or something. I don't know what that bird is saying, but it is on a roll. So y'all have to excuse, there are so many birds, again, where I live. And a lot of their songs are so beautiful. This one, I don't know. It sounds like he's hollering and screaming out for pain. So I hope that bird is okay. But, yeah, I learned how to be self-reliant. That I didn't need anyone or that I don't need anything or anybody. All I need is myself. And, as people begin to show up in my life that will be a source of support that I can rely on, that won't abandon me, I will open up my arms to them and welcome them into my life, wholeheartedly, sincerely, and I'm so grateful for the two people that I do have in my life at this present time, as I can rely on them. They are reliable, and I'm grateful for them. They are such beautiful souls. But I'm going to end it here, guys. As you all are navigating through your abandonment issues, I send you so much love and so much healing. And, I want you to be understanding and patient with yourself, because when you are healing codependency, it's not easy. You are used to someone being there, or you are feeling like you need someone to be there for you. But you really don't. What you need is to be there for yourself. What you need to learn is to be self-reliant on yourself, and for whatever way that is, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, whether it's spiritual, or just relying on your own company, and then just trusting that you are all that you need at the end of the day. You know, because people can choose to leave, and people leave one way or another if you are to remain. They either leave by choice, voluntarily, or they leave involuntarily by death. So people leave one way or another if you are to remain, or either you leave voluntarily or involuntarily. So know that you are enough to rely on. Know that you are enough, and that you are all that you will ever need. But alright, I just wanted to give you guys a quick message, and I guess it wasn't that quick because it was almost a half an hour, but 255 as I said that, 155 as I said that, 551 as I said that, for you that are keeping track of your angelic numbers. But I'm going to end it here. I will see you guys tomorrow. Love, peace, and grace. Alright, guys? You guys have a beautiful night, beautiful day, depending on where it is. And I'll see you in the next one. Alright, take care.